Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having a fantastic day. This is a very specific question of the day. Question of the day is, in the next 500 days, the next 18 months, 500 days, where do you think Bitcoin's price will be? How high will Bitcoin's price be in 500 days? This is very specific for a reason. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. We've gotten to the point of like near madness. I don't want to use the term hysteria, but I think numbers are very important for a number of reasons. In that, years ago, a large portion of the news, why am I screaming into the microphone? A large portion of the news had to do with the accumulation of crypto. And if you've been here for years with the channel, you might remember my ranting videos where I just mentally didn't get it. Whether it be about people buying altcoins that they knew weren't going to make it, or there were a lot of people, and there still are, a lot of people within the cryptocurrency space who can actively hear about what's happening with Bitcoin, and then these people own no Bitcoin at all. That extended to us, normal people, constantly hearing about these rich people accumulating Bitcoin, buying up Bitcoin, storing away Bitcoin. The weirdest one being, I think it was right before I started this channel. One of my first videos, I don't know what it was called anymore. I make a video every day for the last 8 years. I don't remember. It had to do with that billionaire guy who was having a private Bitcoin meeting on his island. And basically he invited a whole bunch of developers and they were like, yeah, you know, he plans on buying and this is going to, and I was like, why would you have a private meeting on a private island about this new thing that just kind of popped up? That kind of really solidified it for me. Where we are now, broken record time, is a little staggering and it's also like a little scary. Not like, you know, horror movie scary, but it's more like a, I didn't think we'd be where we are now for a while. And I'll even tell you this, I was expecting like a little bit of a revolution, like, you know, like people being outside in the streets kind of thing. Not so much a digital one, but I guess the world is nearly all digital, so this is what we have to deal with. I assumed that the numbers that we've been going over for years now would have translated into something else, but I guess in a way that they kind of did. Simply because when we get numbers like we have been getting and are currently getting, as far as, and I mean just basic accumulation, I know that a lot of the other metrics are probably very boring to people. I've made videos before where the highlight of the video for me was going over insurance and like retirement funds buying Bitcoin. This is an indication that they've looked into Bitcoin and they say, okay, over the course of the next 20 to 30 years, this asset class is going to completely rocket. The money we will make from this will basically assure that people get to retire from the fund and also show that we as a company were the first movers and therefore other people will start doing business with us. Everything that we've seen has to do with longevity and long term. Went over that a couple of videos ago as well. A lot of people who are new to finance or new to crypto, a lot of what we've been taught, especially in many different educational systems where you don't have proper like economics or economics class. They don't teach you about taxes. They don't teach you about growth. They don't teach you about interest rates. They teach you nothing. You're meant to essentially be a worker for the rest of your life. That's the point of the system. They need consumers. They need people who get money and spend it immediately. We are not meant to be investors. We're meant to be consumers who consume what the other rich people have created. But now that we're in the cryptocurrency space, and I try to tell people about the idea of longevity or long-term investing, it still seems quite foreign to a lot of people, but I think you'll get it as the years end up going on. The idea basically being buy assets that are going to appreciate, or buy assets in general, and of course buy things that will create income or passive income. Real estate, land, stocks, dividends, you name it, even staking in cryptocurrencies. When these people look at these charts, a lot of times, because we've been taught to do so as normal people, we get taught to only look at the now. Your paycheck came in now. You deal with today. You pay off everything you have to pay off, and you have a couple bit of money left over. Well, turn on Netflix, turn on this, absorb things, watch ads, and then go buy stuff. That is your purpose as a consumer on this planet. When you talk about the actual long-term prospectus of this market, it has nothing to do with like immediate quick spending, and I think that drives people a little bit insane. The idea of holding on to something, you must have heard of the term, I mean, at least this was said to me as a kid. It's burning a hole in your pocket. So I remember being young, and I remember getting I almost said a dividend. What's the word? What do you get from your parents? An allowance. I was like, they didn't give me dividends. Well, I guess kind of. You get an allowance, and my allowance was, I think, like $20 for the whole month. And I was like, whoa, I'm freaking rich. And immediately I would go buy candy. I would go buy Pokemon cards. I would buy anything I wanted. And then 3 days later, I'm like, where's all my money? There's nothing left there. So the idea was that you put it in your pocket, and it's literally like it's burning it. Like you feel the heat from me. Like I have to spend it. So when you get money, when you invest and you put something away, and I've had a lot of friends tell me before, it's something very difficult for them, because you will go and check your crypto investments, they'll check their stock investments, and they see that they've gone up by 25%. And they ask me, should they pull out the principal? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, I mean, I made some money, like I want to go spend it. And I'm like, no, keep the money there so that it continues to accrue. It continues to grow bigger and bigger. And you keep pushing money into it until at some point you have enough and you're like, I want to buy another asset that is also going to produce money. That's the point of investing. When you hear about generational wealth, this is how you get it. You buy something and you don't sell it. This is me personally. I could not ever stand those house flipping TV shows. It just made no sense to me. Me personally, why you would want to buy something, make it look pretty, and then flip it for someone else. I saw an interview with this guy who also felt the exact same way. And he was saying that a lot of those TV shows give the wrong impression of investing. It's not simply buying something, refurbishing it, make it look nice, you sell it, because there's a whole bunch of other taxes and fees that you're not seeing within that TV show that also end up, you're not really making that million that you see on the TV show. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that actually goes into it as well. So he said his entire idea has always been to just like buy and hold. And now he had about like 27 properties over the course of the last like 15 or so years. And he's like, I'm going to be able to pass these on to my kids so that they also can buy more properties. And, wealth continues being grown this way. We've got incredibly off topic, but I just had to, I guess, maybe get that off my chest. I'm not really sure. It's just more to let people know that like patience is a virtue, especially when it comes to the cryptocurrency space, because of what we're going to be talking about and what we have been talking about. Simply because, once again, these people who are in the market, they're not here for a week. They're not here for a month. They're not here for a year. They're here for decades, if not longer, especially as the market ends up growing. That's been one of the main things that I've made sure to kind of like consistently say over and over. When you hear it's been just roughly around 8 to 9 weeks since we've gotten the actual Bitcoin ETFs. That's it. And the accumulation levels of these companies we've gone over before. The sun is on my neck. How did that happen? It's just like, it's not anywhere else in the room. It's just completely on my neck. Hold on. Nope, didn't work. Tried to close the curtain. Did not work. The accumulation levels that we've seen from these companies is staggering. Not only because it's a huge amount in a short period of time, but because of how long these companies are going to be in this space. Understand that when a company, especially as big as BlackRock, Fidelity, MicroStrategy, name, you don't get into a space and go, we're going to be there for 8 weeks and then we are gone. The prospectus for them is that this is going to be a multi-trillion-dollar market. And over the course of a decade or two, the money they've made from this market will also equate to hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars. And if you've made that money over the course of a decade, a 10-year period, what does the next 10 years hold for you? And then the next 10 years and then the next 10 years. The accumulation levels that we've seen in 8 weeks are staggering, not because only that it's 8 weeks, but because what does it mean for the course of 80 weeks? What do the next 500 days hold for this market? What do the next 5,000 days hold for this market? If we're seeing this level of accumulation and this much money being pushed into the space and this many price predictions and these many people talking about we're going here, this is going to happen, and we still not have gotten to the having yet, that's where it becomes staggering. That's why I've said before, even like lightly joking, I'm like, where are we going to be by 2027? Because the idea is that, for those of you who haven't been paying attention, when they're in the last 8 weeks, or in the last multiple years, anytime there's been a dip in price, it's gone because people are buying. In the last 8 weeks, anytime we've seen a dip in price, the price moves up quickly because the rich people see that the price has gone down and they go, I need to get it because it's clearly going to go back to from whence it came. It is going to go back a lot higher than it just was with that 2-3% drop that we currently see in price, what have you, on any given day. So when we continuously get news about one particular thing, if every single day we got news over the course of the last 8 years that there was a mango shortage, this is a world where mangoes also don't get old. I don't know why I chose mango. Maybe I'm hungry. And we kept on hearing less mangoes. And there's people in the market who are like, I really like apples though. Has anyone have any raisins? And no raisins in the room. And it's like, well, everyone's just talking about mangoes. I don't know. I really like tamales, like that kind of thing. It kind of drives me insane because this is why I've said before, especially when Bitcoin's price was lower, I was like, how are there people in this market who don't have, you don't have 1 million Satoshis? You haven't worked towards getting it like that. That's not even on your radar. That you don't want any Bitcoin at all when these people are talking about that is going to these astronomical levels. There's a guy, his name is Samson Mow, M-O-W. He was in the news a couple of weeks ago. He was also heavily in the news years ago. He's kind of popped back up once again within the space to talk about analytics and a lot of where his charts are showing that the cryptocurrency prices are going to be going. I told you all before that it's very interesting to see that a lot of these people have these charts and that their charts are all going literally in the exact same direction. They basically all have the exact same numbers. We've heard before from that guy, Plan B. This is an old podcast episode, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, an old air quotes relative, where they were asking him, where does his chart show Bitcoin going by the year, I think it was 2027, 2028. And he was saying a lot of times he doesn't tell people or show people the numbers because sometimes people not that they laugh at him, but it seems almost absurd that we could get those numbers. And the guy was like, where do you see it going? He's like, Bitcoin's easily going to go over $1 million. And the guy was also like, well, that Bitcoin's currently at $8,000. Are you really saying that we're going from 8,000 to $1 million? And he was like, if the current level, we're talking about 2018, 19, 20 levels of accumulation continue, we will eventually hit $1 million per Bitcoin, and it won't take as long as people actually think. That's the idea of the supply crunch. That's the idea of there's not really a lot. That's the idea of just MicroStrategy and Fidelity accumulating so many coins that by summer of this year, they're going to hold over 1% of all the Bitcoin. Now, even if you did a light benefit of the doubt kind of thing, and you go, well, it's only 1% of all the no. Is it 10%? Yes. That's 10% of all the Bitcoin. Yes. So anyway, the point being, and we say, look, over the course of a 5-year period, because, it's all long term. It's all longevity. It all has to do with like down the road kind of thing. Nothing is like short term investing for these very wealthy people. We would then live in a world in 5 years where these two companies own 6 million Bitcoin. I don't think it's ever going to get that intense, because after the halvings and other people see what they do, with like what they're currently trying to do, the accumulation of other companies and people will accumulate a lot more, and it'll be more difficult for them to actually get to 6 million Bitcoin. But it's a relative number that is simply like what would or could or will happen based on the actual current trends. So Samson Mow was in the news a couple of weeks ago, maybe like a month and a half ago, when the accumulation first started from the ETFs, and he was like, something really insane is happening. He was one of the first people to be like, we're going to definitely hit 100K this year. It seems, hindsight 30/30. It seems like it right now, because simply we see the prices where they are, and it's like, well, of course Bitcoin's going to hit 100K. For those of you who weren't here the end of last year, or even the summer of last year, or even the beginning of this year, the price prediction for December of 2024 was $55,000 per Bitcoin. That was the maximum. Do you want to know why? Because the last two videos that we had, for those of you who also weren't here or who were here, there was another guy who was going over all the numbers and like all the analytics for the past bull runs that we've had. And it usually takes around 7, 8, 9 months for us to hit the previous all-time high after the halving. So that's to say the halving happens, and the charts that we had were the 3 month, like how much Bitcoin went up after 3 months, how much Bitcoin went up after 6 months, and never had it hit its previous all-time high already. So the levels of accumulation that we're seeing are maddening. Like they literally don't make any sense based off of what we've had before. This is where we're getting all these crazy price predictions from. We should not or would not be above $69,000 per Bitcoin, the previous all-time high, until maybe January of 2025. Do you understand what that means? I know you understand my words because I'm speaking in English, but do you understand how far ahead in price we are because of the accumulation that we're seeing? And this is public accumulation. The market's going wild because we are getting news constantly of how much Bitcoin these companies are holding. If we heard that Fidelity, MicroStrategy, and BlackRock were accumulating Bitcoin, but we did not have news of how much, we'd probably be at a good $50,000 to $53,000 per Bitcoin. But it's because we can see how much they're buying, the accumulation levels. It's driving everyone completely mad because they're like, the halving still has not gotten here. For those of you who also didn't see the numbers, it is that, what was it? I think historically, on average, 3 months after the halving, Bitcoin, I think, goes up by 21%. And I think 6 months after the halving, I think 1 year we hit 38% up, and 1 year it was 81% up. That's why you might have seen a lot of those newly renewed price predictions for the cryptocurrency, for Bitcoin's price recently, where a lot of people were talking about like, oh, by the end of this year, we're now calculating a $200,000 Bitcoin. Because one of the other calculations that we also recently had in another video was saying that this company based their predictions off of the idea of a $69,000 Bitcoin, I believe, by summertime. We've already passed the previous all-time high. The idea being halvings in April, May, June, July, summertime. Bitcoin is going to hit its previous all-time high. So we're also ahead in that metric as well. And their idea that was by the end of the year, we would hit $200,000 per Bitcoin. Understand how insane all of this action. If you can see me, I'm flailing my arms around the room. I don't know why I do stuff like that. Samson Mow is back in the news. He's the one who told us before, he's like, Bitcoin's going to 100K in 2024. And it sounded insane at the beginning of the year because we're like, okay, Samson, okay, thank you very much for your words. But now it makes a lot more sense. However, this man's back in the news with even more intensity, dare I say, telling us where he thinks Bitcoin's price is going this year. Now, I ask you to be as calm as possible and to have as much, strength within you. I will tell you, these numbers seem believable. You might think I'm crazy. You might think I'm insane. What I think I need is for us to get to around July or August. If historically, as I've been saying for months now, Bitcoin's price typically does not move up until after the halving, and we've seen that historically 3 to 6 months after the halving, Bitcoin's price completely goes insane. And that's within the realm of that is the realm of the halving year. Next year is going to be absolutely bonkers. Samson Mao basically said that Bitcoin is going to 7 figures. Everyone got it? That's $1 million. But the way he said it was like, yeah, I kind of agree with you. Samson Mao said in an appearance on the What Bitcoin Did podcast that the flagship crypto asset could go up by around 1,264% from the current level over the course of the next couple of months. Hear me out here. Altcoins tend to do those numbers. So if you've never been here before for a bull run, welcome. It's going to get wild. If you've never been here before, what always ends up happening is, as I've said countless times, Bitcoin will go up in a day by 5% in price. Many altcoins will go up by 31%, 18%. Some will go up by 124% over the course of a week. You will see it's going to get crazy. That's because the altcoins, typically, they're a lot easier to hype. They have lower prices, blah, 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 blah. Money moves a lot. Money movements into those coins has a very easy effect on actually raising the price. The same thing goes true for Bitcoin. The issue is that we've never been in a situation before where we have two companies who are very close to acquiring 1 million Bitcoin by the time we get very hot temperatures. If those two companies are accumulating all that Bitcoin, and then you have the other 7 companies who are also acquiring tons of Bitcoin through their ETFs, and then you also have MicroStrategy, who just also re-announced, they said that they purchased, what was it? 3,000 Bitcoin earlier this year, and then they just purchased another, was it 12,000 or something? They now have over 200,000 Bitcoin. They just, like a day or two ago, re-announced that they're now trying to get another 500 million, like literally, this is the third time in like 4 weeks, another $500 million to buy up more Bitcoin. There's not a lot of Bitcoin out there, and the amount of Bitcoin on exchanges continues to dwindle as well. Like there's literally not a lot to go around for everyone. We have these mega companies who are accumulating. Remember the number that we got, that BlackRock alone. Understand numbers. Understand why numbers are so important. BlackRock alone was accumulating 9 times the amount of Bitcoin that was created per day. Per day, they were buying 9 times as much. You realize that can't go on forever. It's the same with the mango thing. Mangoes grow on trees, right? Yes, of course. Why not? Let's say there's a mango tree that's producing 10 mangoes per day. They're magical. They're growing really, really fast. And BlackRock is buying 100 mangoes per day. And they keep doing this. You realize at some point the trees aren't producing any more mangoes because they're buying them up as quick as they're actually created. If they alone, do you understand what 9x means? It doesn't make any sense. Like, it mathematically doesn't make any sense that one company is doing this. Like, how the levels of accumulation that we're just seeing from them, from one freaking company, they're buying 9x. And I told you before, the companies who are mining Bitcoin, they're not selling all of their Bitcoin. They're mining it for themselves. They only sell off what they have to do to like pay the electricity. The rest goes in pocket. That means BlackRock alone, but also MicroStrategy. BlackRock alone is probably accumulating 50 to 100x if we look at the real numbers of the amount of Bitcoin that's being created and actually entering the market per day. If they do this for 6 months, the market's dry. The problem is it's not just BlackRock. It's also Fidelity. It's also MicroStrategy. It's also, you think Samson Mao is not buying up Bitcoin? It's freaking insane what's happening right now. This is why I knew it. At the beginning of the video, I was like, I'm going to try and be calm. I'm going to try, like, I can't. This is driving me insane every single day to constantly like see this in the news over and over and over. These levels of accumulation. I mean, it's nonstop. It's almost said unstoppable. I guess that kind of is lightly applicable there, but the levels of accumulation are staggering. They're completely insane. If we end up hitting $100,000 by the halving, where are we by the end of the year? And that's with like, those are, and I think even like relatively conservative numbers, considering that everything is about to like get literally cut in half. Who else is buying? Tons of other people. Governments are buying. He said he thinks that Bitcoin could go up by around 1,264% from the current level over the next couple of months. He said, and I quote, I think this year we're going to $1 million. If not this year, next year. But it's coming very soon. According to the Jan 3 CEO, the existing market conditions are informing his bullish thesis for Bitcoin. He said the whole setup we have right now is perfect for a run-up. You have demand far outstripping supply, and supply is about to be cut. You know the halving is in a month. The demand for Bitcoin is overwhelming. And I wish we had more numbers like that, but I think that a lot of times these numbers aren't released because I think it would terrify the public. And of course, these companies want to be able to accumulate as prices are lower. Hear me out here. The amount of Bitcoin that gets created per day, BlackRock alone is doing 9 to 10 times. They're buying that much or accumulating that much per day. If the actual number ends up, if there are 900 Bitcoin made per day and 100 is actually being thrown into the market from people selling their Bitcoin because they have to keep the lights on, that would leave us, correct me if I'm wrong, is that a 70, 80, or 90x of the amount of Bitcoin that's actually being created per day that's just being accumulated by BlackRock? What are the numbers if we add in Fidelity? What are the numbers if we add in MicroStrategy? What are the numbers if we add in JP Morgan and all these other companies who are also buying as well, because we know that they're buying? All the entities and all the people who we know are buying constantly. Isn't El Salvador, they're also, I think, buying Bitcoin, they said, every single day. Like, you can find the article. They literally said we're going to buy Bitcoin every single day from now on. What is that versus the actual amount that's being created per day? Are we around 300, 400x what's being created per day, being accumulated by companies? I'm not even counting you and your friends and normal people in the market. I wonder what the numbers are, because we keep getting quoted the 9, the 10, and the 13x that we've heard before from the actual multiple ETFs accumulating. And then when the halving happens, that becomes a 26x. Why are we only talking about the ETF accumulation? What are the actual numbers? And I mean also from the actual that's actually even entering the market. He said the spot exchange traded funds alone are pulling in around 22,000 Bitcoin. So demand is like 10x. Now it's going to 20x. So the price should react accordingly. Mao says this is the other thing that for some reason, I can't remember this word and I don't know why. He said the Veblen effect is also taking course as well. A concept that states that as the price of a good rises, the demand increases, resulting in an upward sloping demand curve. The idea being, as I've said in other videos, I could not, Veblen, I don't know why. It's like, I can remember everything else. I can remember obscure numbers from like 7.5 years ago. But the word Veblen it sounds like a Pokemon or something. You caught a Veblen. Like I can't put it into my head for some reason. The idea of Veblen is very true. I remember hearing about it before and I was like, I guess that kind of makes sense. And I was like, oh, wait, no, that's how the world works. As something becomes more expensive, you want it more. If something is $2, you go, that's kind of weird. If something is $800, you go, I need to have one of those in my collection. I would love to have one of those as well. That item goes up to $2,500. You become a star. You become the person who knew to buy at $800, even though it's $2,500. I watch a lot of collecting things on YouTube as well, where like it's so weird. People buy like sports cards and they're like, I got this card when it was like $800. It's so and so and so, and now it's $34,000. And I was like, well, it's like a rookie Michael Jordan. Like I could have told you it was also going to go there. The interesting part is that at $800, very few people wanted it. At $34,000, everybody wants that in their collection. Everybody wants that in their safe. It's the same. I saw a whole bunch of things for like is it Mickey Mantle? There's a whole bunch of old baseball cards. I don't know how the world works. I literally can't figure out life. A lot of people like didn't want these cards. Like they were from the 1920s or 30s, and like some of the grading system, like when you put them in that hard plastic shell, the grades for a lot of these things were like a grade 2 or grade 3, so they were like, in bad condition. 10 being mint condition. A lot of them were 2s and 3s, and nobody wanted like the beat up versions. Those beat up versions are like $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 now, and now they're highly coveted because the price has gone up on them. The idea being, you've seen the memes before. There's like 2 stands, and there's like a line for people who want to buy a whole bunch of Bitcoin when it's at 69,000, but the other stand for a Bitcoin at 5,000. Well, it's only $5,000. This is why you see like the momentum in the market like completely lowering as we have bear markets. People, for some reason, completely lose faith. People pretend that the market just wasn't up, and there's no heavy indication in their mind that the market's going to go back up. I had so many friends, hello if you're watching, so many friends telling me that they were like afraid that Bitcoin was never going to go back up, and I was like, what are you talking about? They were like, well, like the price is down now, so I'm not going to be buying for a while because it doesn't seem worth it. I was like, no. Now is when you buy when it's at 10K. Yeah, but how long is it going to take for the previous all-time highs? Like before we get to the halving, like when we're around it, like of course the prices are going to. I don't know, and it always happens. So Bitcoin becomes far more attractive as the price goes up. But this goes up on a slope. This isn't like a 15 people go, that's amazing. It's a cumulative FOMO that ends up hitting the market. And the problem is that even if we go to some crazy price number, and if prices fall back down previously as they did before, the idea of owning something that's still, if Bitcoin's price falls and it only goes to $180,000, that's something for the mega rich. How many people do you know have an asset besides a home that's $180,000? How many people do you know have a first edition mint condition Charizard or a Jordan rookie card? See? But because they have it, it's still highly coveted, and people then look at it in a completely different way. So at Bitcoin at $70-something thousand, like that's crazy. Even just logically in general, the idea of having an entire Bitcoin is completely mind-boggling to me. And then you go to like a little bit further and go, what if that one Bitcoin that someone's holding goes to like 300,000? The Veblen effect takes effect, and people go, I want to be part of the 1%. How do I get to be part of the 1%? And you go, well, you get a time machine and you go buy Bitcoin when it was $5,000 when I was screaming into this microphone. It's the same exact thing with the idea of like only owning 0.28% to be part of the Bitcoin 1%. The fact that Last year and the year before, it took a couple $1,000s to get to the Bitcoin 1%. When Bitcoin goes to 300, 400,000, these articles will begin to pop up again. How much Bitcoin do you need to be part of the 1%? And people will go, that's so much money, but they'll begin to strive then to hit those numbers in the future so that they can, buy as much Bitcoin over the course of multiple years to get to the 0.8% because it becomes something that only wealthy people are holding. We're living in a very interesting time right now. I can only hope that many of you, nearly all of you watching, who've been with this channel for a while, have taken into account everything that I've been screaming into a microphone. You know that the prices are going to rise after the halving, right? 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. Remember when I was asking you, where's Bitcoin's price going to be in the next 500 days? When the supply gets cut in half that's being created and demand completely, rapidly passes by, if this is what's happening, look at what happened since the beginning of the year with the amount of Bitcoin that's being created per day now. How much have we gone up in price? Now cut the supply in half. Have more people getting into the market who are also buying, who are also trying to get 1 million Satoshis, who are also trying to get 0.28 Bitcoin to be part of the Bitcoin 1%. How much higher does the price go? I'm trying. It's very difficult. I'm trying to keep myself just mentally controlled because I think that we're going to 200K this year. I think 100,000 is right around the corner. And I think 100,000 is the psychological level that's going to send people over the edge because they're going to be like, I could have bought before. I need to buy now. That's going to change. If we hit there by summer, I think we're going to 200K this year. I know it sounds insane. I know it sounds completely nuts. Me and you will be here together in winter to talk about if I was right or wrong. If we go to 150, 200K this year, we're probably going to 500,000 plus next year. Can we hit 1 million? I think it's possible. I know it sounds nuts. I know I sound insane. There's far too much happening right now. There's far too much accumulation. We hit the previous all-time high and then some 9 months early. Yeah, I know it's a lot. I know it's a lot to think about. I know it's, but boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Yeah. As always, if I would ask that you take a good 20 minutes out of your day, go meditate in the corner and meditate on if Bitcoin is right for your portfolio. And I say that because I know that there must be still some people out there who were on the fence. So have some inward reflection and see if owning Bitcoin is right for you, if it's a great hedge for you, or if you hear what I've been saying for the last several years. I remember Bitcoin dropping to like $5,000-$6,000 and being like, now, do it now. What now? Has everyone seen the price? You've seen me on Twitter before, and I remember like lightly celebrating and being like, it's time to buy. Like people have to hope you're all buying. And I saw so many comments of people being like, I bought the dip, I bought the dip, I bought the dip, I bought the dip, I bought the dip. I'm like you can't mentally imagine how happy that I am that people actually like paid attention. I know we got off course sometimes, and I know there were people who were buying dog with cat and boot with shoe and all these other things like that and all these other crazy I don't fault you at all for buying meme coins and or altcoins, especially when the returns end up being, completely insane. But buddy boy, if you're not paying attention to all of this after me screaming into this microphone for 7 years, I don't know how to help anymore. So yeah, Samson Mao says $1 million. Something about that is making a lot of sense to me. And I mean, let's be completely honest. 100K is going to be groundbreaking when we get there. Even if we just went to 100K, that's still absolutely phenomenal. 200 or 300K is also coming. Understand how far we've come in this short period of time. You see where we are? A lot of you have been with me since 2016, 2017. Do you see where our market is now? We're consistently over $1 trillion, and people are like, I guess it's cool. Remember having coins in this market when they went over $5 billion as a market cap, and we were like, that's unsustainable. How is this coin over $5 billion market cap? That doesn't make any sense. Look at where we are now. And there's a lot more heading our way. Oh boy. I definitely think that's going to do it for this video. My blood pressure is already sky high. I need to go get some mangoes or something. That was a joke because mangoes. Anyway, I do hope sincerely that you have all enjoyed. I hope you all have a reflective period to see if something is right for you. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See